From Minneapolis, Minnesota, welcome to Playwright Center's Theater Begins Here.
Today, theater begins with writer's block. But first, do you have a script that is a later draft and ready for professional feedback? Check out our one-on-one dramaturgy program, which will pair you with a dramaturg who will read your play and provide constructive feedback as you prepare to move into a revision. Our dramaturgs are new play dramaturgs. They consider themselves the first audience member of your play. Their role is to respond authentically, share what they see and hear, be curious, and ask questions. They are the artist who notices if what the playwright is trying to accomplish in their play is translating to the page. Read more about the program on our website at pwcenter.org/1-1-dramaturg. And now, on to the show. We are so happy to be joined today by Nubia Monks, who is an actor, playwright, and educator. She has performed at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, the La Jolla Playhouse, the Old Globe, the Women's Theater Festival, the Guthrie Theater, and the Folger Theater. As a writer, Nubia is interested in telling stories that cater to and center the Black experience. Her works include Hands of Color, which was at Synchronicity Theater in 2019, The War Unseen, which was at Montana Repertory Theater in 2020, and The Lost Women, which has been developed and workshopped at Playwright Center during her 2021-22 Jerome Fellowship, and the Playwrights Realm 21-22 Scratchpad series. She is currently a member of the Realms Writers Group at the Playwrights Realm, and is overflowing with excitement to be returning to the Playwright Center as a Jerome Fellow for the second time. Woohoo! And her Instagram is @_onlynubia. Welcome, Nubia.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we like to begin by asking artists, how did your theatrical journey begin?
Oh, what a journey. My theatrical journey began when I was 14 years old. I went to public school in the hood. I was born and raised in South Central Los Angeles, and I went to Washington Preparatory High School. I am also the product of parents who are addicts, and I remember being 14 years old and just wanting more, just doing any and everything that I can not to become like my parents. It was a big fear of mine. So I wanted purpose. And I remember sitting in an auditorium. We had an assembly, and the theater department did a preview of a show that they were doing called Ray and Sons. And that was the first time I saw nothing but Black bodies on stage doing theater. I didn't know theater was theater. I didn't know what the heck they were doing. I'd never seen a play. It was like, whoa, they have on costumes. They get to be, these different characters for an hour and a half. Whoa, I want to do that. If they can do it, I can do it too. And I was, searching for purpose, but also an escape, from my own little reality. Didn't really have it good growing up. And so it was like my Hail Mary. I was just like, I wasn't a believer in God at the time. So I wasn't anchored in anything. I was just floating through the world, just lost. And the only thing I knew, though, is that I didn't want to be like my parents. And so when I saw these Black students performing and escaping, or so I thought, escaping reality, I said, oh, hell yeah, it's a 2-for-1 special for me. So let me figure out how I can get in on this action. And so I lingered around after school one day. It was like maybe a month later. I lingered around after school and I saw a sign on the door that said auditions for the next show, which was an original play called A Moment of Silence, written by my drama teacher at the time. Or he was my writing teacher, but he was also the drama teacher at the school. And I knew nothing about auditions. I just knew I needed to be in that room. And so I walked into that room. I see like, you know, people have papers in their hands. And like, I see like a huge paragraph on the paper. I didn't know what the heck a monologue was. I had nothing, y'all. I had nothing but drive and the desire to not go home. So I walk in there and I'm like, hey, I don't have a paragraph prepared, but I'm just going to talk to you. I'm just going to talk to you. And I ended up just sharing my life story because I'd been through so much and I'd never spoke it out loud. I wrote a lot in my journals and stuff like that, but I'd never spoken my story out loud. And I lied. I remember telling the drama teacher, like, oh, this isn't a real story, because my grandmother took us in through the foster care system through Kin Gap. And so if I said the wrong thing at 14, I could get taken away. I knew that. So I was, you know, like, oh, this isn't a real thing, but I just want to talk to you. It was my story. And even till this day, my drama teacher became like a father figure. He ended up taking me under his wing. And till this day, we talk about it all the time. Like, you know, I knew he always says, I knew that was your story. Like, you know, because you knew nothing about theater. You hadn't had anything rehearsed. That was coming from a real place. And so, long story longer, I got cast in the show, Moment of Silence. I was like some teacher or whatever, and I had to sing and I had to act, and it was the best experience ever. Like, I got the thing. Like, I got on stage and I felt the thing that you feel as an actor, like that adrenaline, that rush, that escape, quote unquote, escape into another world, into another reality. Like, so I wanted more. And I ended up, you know, long story, even longer, I ended up just doing nothing but theater shows or whatever, discovered that I have a gift and a talent, and that there is more to life than pain and trauma. And it saved my life. Theater saved my life. And I do not say that lightly. It is the reason why I'm here talking with you all today. And so that is what began. That's how my theater journey began.
That is such a powerful story. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you talk about theater with so much joy. It is a light within you. And obviously seeing you in PwC's theater, whether you're just writing or performing, you just have a great joy of being in the building. And it's just a very spiritual thing. And it's nice to be a part of on the administrative side. And then also as an artist and an audience member, it's just, yeah. And would you say like that moment you're like, yes, you've dedicated to theater, but now I want it to be a career? Because it's different if you want it to be a side hobby where it's just a release. But when's the moment, if there was just the moment, where you were like, I'm pursuing this as a career. This is what I do. I'm going to be a professional. This is where I'm moving forward.
You know, I never had that moment. It just kind of always, this journey of theater, it kind of just always kept finding me. It was like my lifeline. It was like my anchor. And it was like the thing that wouldn't leave me alone. Like, don't get me wrong. Yes, I found theater when I was 14 and found purpose, but life didn't stop lifing. You know, things didn't stop happening to me. I didn't stop wanting and trying, if I'm brutally honest, to give up, right? And throw in the towel. And it just felt like theater, this medium, this world kept following me, kept finding me. And so when it came down to the rest of my high school trajectory, it was like, oh yeah, I was my legal name, Kimberly. It was like, oh, Kimberly's gonna do the show. Kimberly's gonna do that show. And so it was boom, and then, college happened. I'm like, well, of course I should probably still study theater. Not sure that's what I want to do in my life, but like, it's the only thing that I know. It's as if I became alive when I met theater, and it was the only thing I knew. And so, as it related to my joy, as it related to getting up in the morning, as it related to braving the day, as it related to healing, as it related to empathy and understanding humanity and being a better person, like, theater was my ultimate teacher, my ultimate best friend, my ultimate everything. And so it just was my world. It just, until this, like, it just is my world. So college happened. I stopped studying theater for my final 2 years in college. But again, theater never stopped following me. So I was still doing theater outside of college. And then I was like, oh, I want to go to grad school. I should probably go to grad school for acting. Okay, sure. So I went to grad school for acting. Then I started teaching, and I thought that would be my career path. I thought teaching would be my thing, and then acting would continue to be my love. Like, we're talking relationships, like acting was my like side piece, and then teaching was my main squeeze. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was bringing in good money and stuff like that. But again, theater is relentless when it comes to me and my trajectory. Theater never stops wanting to be, in the front seat. And so I'm not sure I ever really chose theater as a career. It's just all encompassing. It's in me. It's who I am. And so because of that choice, the gods and the universe just keeps conspiring to put me in theatrical spaces. And now the only difference is I just make money. I just get paid to do it.
Yes. Well, you practice theater art in many forms. You're an actor. I have heard you sing. You are a powerful vocalist, a beautiful voice, just gorgeous. You're a playwright. Do you also direct, dramaturg? Like, how have you sort of found these different parts of you? How have they shown up for you over the years?
My best friend Lester, former Many Voices fellow, he would have you believe that I'm a director. I believe that I'm an actor, and I believe that actors just also make good directors. They won't necessarily call themselves that, but I'm an actor. So sometimes I put on a little bit of a director's hat, and I dibble and dabble. I leave dramaturgy to the geniuses. And so I don't touch dramaturgy. I don't feel like that's my testimony. But when my father, my drama teacher, his name is Brandon Rainey for the record. And when he, took me under his wing and took me in as like a daughter, I watched him direct so much, we did a lot of community theater, a lot of shows all over LA, all over California. And he would let me direct on my own. Like, I was in college. I started teaching at these little summer camps or whatever. And he would have me direct full productions with high school, middle school, elementary students. And he would let me coach adult actors. He would let me, do scene studies with people. So he would like throw me into the lion's den without me knowing I was being thrown into the lion's den, and I just step into it. And so when it comes to directing and coaching, yeah, I have a knack for it. I always just keep it to myself. Like, I don't say I'm a director because I don't think I have the attention span or the patience, or like, I'm a Gemini. So like, I'm always going every which way in my brain, and directors gotta be on it. And that ain't my thing, but I have dibbled and dabbled. However, I'm mostly just an actor, educator, I sing, and a writer.
I mean, you've been in workshops before, and you're a good workshop actor. And it's different being a workshop actor and coming in with a published play, and you're just going straight into production. It's very different, a very different skill set. And because you're a good workshop actor, I will argue that you are a dramaturg. I'm just like most, I'm just saying, most workshop actors, like strong workshop actors, are good dramaturgs. And you're really helpful because you're in that character. So you're following that character's arc. You know how to talk about it. You know the lingo. And we all know that dramaturgy is different on everyone.
Yeah.
Like we made it up, we made a cool word. And dramaturgy looks really different on a bunch of different people and their skill sets and in their experience. So I will argue you can put dramaturgy and director as additional side pieces. You can say that you're friends with benefits. I don't know.
I'm here for it. I'm here for friends with benefits seems more fitting.
So you had mentioned that you journaled, like you've always journaled. When did journaling kind of turn into you writing? And is your writing more biographical, or do you think that you've stepped away from that?
That's a really good question. Started writing in second grade, journaling, and just fell in love with essays and short stories. And then I remember my second grade teacher, Miss Stewart, beautiful, short, dark chocolate Black woman with gray hair, pulled me to the side, second grade, and said, "You have a gift. Do not stop writing." And so I carried that. And then middle school, I took my, journal entries and short story or essays, and I started writing short stories. And it was biographical. Again, I needed something to do with my life story, with everything that had happened to me, with everything that I had come from. I had to get it down on paper and out of me because it felt more harmful in me than out. And so I wrote this 256-page short freaking story. Yes, I was a seventh grader, and because it was started out as a class assignment, and then I just kept working on it through eighth grade into high school. And so I thought, oh, short stories, but then I fell in love with poetry. So then I started writing a lot of spoken word poetry, a lot of like different types of poems in high school. And then I found out in high school that, oh, you can write your own plays. I didn't know that was a thing until I did the play that my mentor had wrote. I was like, oh, wow, you wrote this. So I watched him write so many different plays. And then I got to college, my writing kind of dropped off, my creative writing. I still journaled, and I still did poetry. I leaned way more into poetry, when I was in undergrad. But then when I got to grad school and learned about all the ways in which I won't get cast in this show and that show because I'm a Black woman in a graduate program, I said, oh, hold up, wait a minute. I'm knocking on the door when I can build my own. So I started writing plays I started writing plays so that I could be in them selfishly. And so I wrote Hands of Color it came from an angry place. I was angry. I wanted to know why are people like this? Why is the world like this? And so I wrote this play so that I could star in it, finished the play, got the play produced, didn't get to star in it, but I was still very satisfied with this thing of giving birth to something that was personal in a lot of ways and biographical in a lot of ways as well. So that's my writing trajectory. These days, I'll say I write plays that are personal. And I don't know if that's necessarily biographical. And I say that because I'm no longer writing about my life or my life story, but I put pieces of me in every character. I put pieces of my story in a lot of characters. All the characters that I've given birth to are a bit of me. But yeah, it's just way more personal these days.
I just want to shout out to all the teachers, especially primary and secondary school. You have to pull students to the side and let them know where their talents are. Just let them know. Like, that's the biggest, most important thing. And I feel like a lot of people miss those opportunities because someone didn't acknowledge their talent and they were unaware of it, or they found it later in life. So Shout out to all of those teachers that remind students that they have a superpower in their talent.
It's heroic. It literally is heroic. Second grade. I'm 30 years old now, and I still remember her every word that she said to me and carried it through the rest of my career.
That's
And
extraordinary.
I do the same thing with my students. Like because of that example, it's annoying to them. I annoy my students with how much I pour into them and let them know, like, no, you have a gift. You have a gift. So yeah.
As a multi-hyphenate theater artist, as we've established, what kinds of freedoms or challenges do you find for yourself as a writer or as a performer, as you come to the craft? Where do you feel these sort of surprising opportunities for yourself as an artist?
As a writer, a new playwright, I find a great deal of freedom in my character, like the characters that I create, not having all the answers. I remember getting so blocked up because I did not know how they did not know. And then it was simple, but it was just like, wait a minute, they're human. Like, these are human characters. They don't know. And that's okay. There's a lot of us, a lot of human beings who don't know. And that makes this character relatable to more than half the population. And so I found a lot of freedom in something so simple, but it just got me out of my own way. But with writing, it's a little hard because unlike acting, once you get the job, you got the job. Like, you get the job first and then the creation and all that starts happening. Boom. But after you've already gotten the job. With writing, you create the thing, but you don't know if you're going to get the job. You don't know if you're going to get a yes. You don't know if you're going to get the production or the publication or whatever have you. You just don't know. So you can spend 5-6 years working on something and not know if it'll get anywhere. That is hard. That is tough for me. And I find myself sometimes, like, I think as writers, you have to be way more grounded in like being confident in the unknown as opposed to being an actor. It might be an unpopular opinion because as actors, we get told no every other second of every other day. But it's just different because this thing that I'm writing, like it's come out of me. It's mine. And like I'm vulnerable enough to apply to the thing. But when you tell me no, when those rejections come in from applying for writing gigs, it feels personal. But when I get told no from an acting gig, it's like, okay, you probably wanted someone with a lighter complexion, thinner hair, whatever like that. Fine, whatever. But I'm assuming with writing that you've read my play, you've experienced a bit of me. You still said no. That is hard. That is tough. And so as a new writer, I'm learning how to, find freedom in that. But that's one of my biggest challenges right now as a writer. And as a performer, it's the insecurity of the thing. It's like, it's no longer about talent in our industry. It's no longer really about skill. It's about look. It's about who you know. It's about how many followers you have. It's about, what theaters you've worked at, et cetera, et cetera. And so that is probably the biggest challenge for me as an actor. It's like, I don't know no one. I'm an introvert. I love regional theater. I ain't been to Broadway. I don't really care to be on Broadway, but like, I know I'm good. That's the intersection between both writing worlds and acting. It's like when you know you're good, when you know you have it and people don't see it. And if you can't, I'm not about to create a palatable play. I don't write palatable plays. I write plays that piss people off and make them uncomfortable and force them to do some introspection. But because it's not necessarily producible or palatable. So like, I don't know, I'd be having to make those kind of but like having to be okay with my bottom lines and my boundaries and what I'm just not going to go for as I'm putting so much of me on the page and sending it out. If you say no, that means you were not a fit for me and I was not a fit for you. I wouldn't want to be somewhere where I don't fit. It'll be friction. It won't work, you know? So that kind of helps me deal with the challenges of writing and acting, but it's a daily struggle.
Yeah. And what a wise and healthy mindset you have around that balancing act. Stacey Rose, in an interview we did with her, talks about how she has to choose herself every day. She can't wait for somebody else. And she's her, best advocate. But that takes a lot of energy and a lot of love.
Yeah. Oh God, yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of self-love in that process. You have to be reminded of.
You need it to get through this industry or the world, period.
And just to steer into kind of the topic of today, writers are always talking about writer's block. It happens. We've invited you to teach a seminar on this topic before. One, do you experience writer's block? And two, what does that look like for you? How does that manifest for you? Have you noticed any patterns, whether it's in work or in life, that might lead to writer's block?
Mm-hmm. So it's an ever-changing concept for me, this thing of writer's block, because I keep having different experiences of it, but I've landed on it is a blessing in disguise when you experience writer's block. Sometimes I'm a spiritual woman, so I use God and the universe to kind of guide me through the world. But sometimes God has to force you to stop. God has to force you to sit, go rest, close the laptop. And 9 times out of 10, that break is probably going to take a week, a month, longer. I am learning how to trust writer's block and not resist it, not fight it, and not look at it like a negative. It is a positive. Artists need rest. And it is only when you've let the chicken sit over the ribs, sit overnight after it has been seasoned and marinated. It's only when you let it actually sit overnight that it'll taste better tomorrow. Like, sometimes you just gotta leave what you have. And if it's a blank screen, that's fine. Leave what you have. Let it simmer. Let it bake some more so you can come back at that thing stronger, more clear-headed, or whatever. You discover so much of what your project needs during writer's block, And so, hell yeah, I experience writer's block. I also experience writer's block when I'm too close to the material. When the material is too personal, when I'm not ready to engage the material from kind of a safe distance. I've been sitting on this play for 6 years, this play that I want to get up out of me, but I'm so blocked up because I'm still so close to the material. Every time I think about it, I break down. I get all locked out. I can't create in that kind of space. I need freedom. I need my bones to be relaxed. I need, I need to be able to breathe. I need to be, and so sometimes writer's block is like, oh, I'm having a response to the thing that I want to write that's not conducive to the final product or to the process. So I'm going to step away. Sometimes writer's block, the biggest misconception about writer's block is that it just happens. Like, it's just out of nowhere. No, sometimes I don't want to get canceled by the writers for saying this because I'm kind of new, but sometimes you choose it. Sometimes it's a choice. Sometimes it's like, oh, I am going to choose to not engage this work right now. I'm blocked up emotionally and I cannot write right now. Right. So I'm going to boom. And when you don't honor that, that's when the work, I think the work suffers, and I think the process suffers, and I think you hurt yourself in the process. But lastly, I'll say that when it comes to writer's block, when it's not, I'm too close to the material, when it's like, oh, I just need a way in, like I rely on different methods and different ways to get into the thing. Sometimes we're blocked up before we even get a word down on the page. Sometimes the blockage comes after the concept has been flushed out and now it's time to start creating the thing. That happens to me a lot. So I rely a lot on things that I've learned, in grad school, learned from fellow friends, image work, reading different articles. Sometimes you got to go and read something else. Sometimes you got to go and experience a little bit of life. Sometimes, so I'll step away and then I'll, do some image work, or I'll just, read a book. I get so much inspiration from reading, or I'll just talk to someone like Lester. Lester knows how to, you all know Lester. Lester's a magical being. He knows how to sift through the stuff and get that thing out of you that you didn't really have the capacity to get out yourself. So sometimes talking to another creative that you know and trust, who's also damn good at the thing, and Lester is damn good at the thing, helps as well. So yeah, I got me an opinion about writer's block. I just think it's unpopular.
God, that is a powerful response though. And especially like not thinking of it as a negative thing, because I think that as soon as we judge anything, then it has control over us. We feel worse about ourselves. The situation doesn't look like there are any possibilities. And your perspective of this is good. What are we learning from it? Let's take a breath. Let's go read, talk to somebody, have a life, like come back when you're ready, or what's going on underneath. I think that's really beautiful and profound. And yeah, I want to apply it in my own life, not just like, it feels like even beyond creative writing, any kind of creation, whether it's like work or creative personal stuff, this seems like it could apply in so many ways.
I also feel super called out of like, sometimes you choose it. And I'm like, stay over there, Nubia.
Alayna's like, are you talking to me over here? Because I feel seen and I'm offended.
My goodness. Yeah, it's a real thing.
Do you feel like your work in other mediums of theater, acting, performing, that sort of thing, do you feel like that has an impact on your ways through writer's block?
Sometimes I have to get up and physically do the thing, like and I'm always pat myself on the back for being an actor who writes and not a writer who writes. Yeah, I think that's such a good thing. You don't have to be an actor. For the people listening, you don't have to be an actor to do this, but being an actor, I get up and I perform the thing, and that gives me a way in. Or I'll be sitting in a coffee shop. Now this I do every other day, and I'm sure there are a few people in this town who probably think I'm a little crazy, but it's okay. I talk to myself, or I allow the characters to speak through me, and I'll record myself, and then I'll go back and I'll, keep the stuff that we like and leave the stuff that we don't. But I have conversations with these characters, and they have conversations with each other, and I am the conduit for those conversations. And it's meditative. It's always a thing of like, hey, characters, use me. And it's spiritual. I am a spiritual being in everything that I do. It is all through spirit. I don't plan what I'm gonna say. I let spirit use me, and I let the characters use me as a conduit sometimes. And that really, really, oh my God. If I could say anything that helps me the most with writer's block, it's getting up and using my body to tell the story, or letting the characters speak through me. Not me speak for them, but letting the characters just speak. And sometimes they won't have nothing to say, and that is okay. So, yeah.
There it is again, the character doesn't have anything to say. You could think, now I'm blocked, I'm stuck, but maybe you sit with that, and that's...
Because what if, now, again, unpopular, but what if it's not even writer's block? What if that doesn't even exist? What if writer's block isn't even a real thing? Yeah, I'm disempowering the term. Like, the term is convoluted in such negative connotations that, the second you feel like you don't have anything to say, not the characters, but you don't feel like you have anything to say. Yeah, like you said, Hannah, you think you're blocked up, but no, you just ain't listen. Just listen to your body, listen to your surroundings, and listen to these characters. Because the hope is that you know who they are. Like before you know, start you getting the get down done on the laptop or whatever like that. You know who these characters are. Let them speak. Like, be quiet. Let them talk. And if they ain't got nothing to say, that don't mean you're blocked up. That means they ain't got nothing to say. But also, I'm talking a lot, but I'm so passionate about this. Silence in plays is one of my best friends. Like, oh, the characters don't have anything to say. That doesn't mean my writing day is done. That means the characters don't have anything to say. So ellipses, in parentheses, a moment of silence, like use it. We let writer's block use us, like use it. But in order to use it, you have to change the way you view it,
Yes.
Y'all got me preaching today.
I know. I was like, where is my church fan? And I want my church like Sunday best hat.
Yeah.
So you kind of named some ways that you have broken through writer's block, or we're going to say, I don't know how.
We need a new name for it. Like by the end of this conversation.
But you've talked about different ways you go to a friend that knows what they're doing and knows you very well, so they know how to break you out of that. You've talked about stepping away and reading something new and then returning, letting it be what it is and just keep going. What are some other things that you do, or any exercises that you might do?
Image work is really, really has been really monumental. Deborah Stein, I took her playwriting class in grad school, and her and Naomi Izuka just kind of took me under their wing as an actor playwright. And one of the things that I learned, and I still do to this day from them, is image work. So, there's a compilation of different images, and you meditate with them, you sit with them, and then you come up with titles for a piece. Just titles. Just from looking at those images. This is how I created Hands of Color. And after you've come up with 3 titles, you let the title that resonates with you the most, you let that stick, or that sticks to you the most, let it stick. And then you just write dialogue. This is what kind of dialogue would be in a play with this title or whatever. Like no stage directions, no context, just dialogue between 2 people. And then boom, oh crap. The hope is that from that dialogue, you are now ready to put some meat on those bones, and boom. And then before you know it, you are in a whole groove. You want to start building characters. You want to start placing them somewhere specific. You want to start giving it historical context. But it all starts with this one image that resonated with you. And it's a patient game. So it's not something that's instant. It's not something that's going to just boom. You gotta really, really be patient in this kind of process. But image work is gold. And then reading other things, just that has nothing to do with what you're writing. On very specific, reading things that have nothing to do with what you are writing. You sometimes when we run into the creative pause, not writer's block, but our creative pause sometimes requires us to sweep our minds, sweep our bodies, just a complete sweep. And sometimes that's diving into a different piece of literature, watching something else on TV, just completely removing yourself. That is very helpful. And then, another thing that I do sometimes, and I don't know how effective this is, but it works for me. I'll just go back and read what I already have, not as an editor, not as but I just sometimes, I don't know about any other writers, but I sometimes get lost in the sauce midway through my process. And that's when the creative pause starts to, become necessary. But before I give in to the creative pause, I'll just go back from the top and I'll just read it out loud. Reading your stuff out, for all the writers listening, read your stuff out loud. You do not have to be an actor to read your stuff out loud for it to make sense. Read your stuff out loud. That sometimes also gets you out of the creative pause. But yeah, sometimes I'll just go back to the top of the piece and I'll just read it out loud. The performing it in my wherever I'm at, or performing it with somebody, right? So if I have actor friends, which I do, who's down to just improvise some stuff for me, That's also helpful. And then talking to myself or letting the characters talk through me.
I love how every single piece of advice is like engaging another sense. Your image work is with your eyes, the speaking, and then reading or listening, hearing, what you've written, like the power of engaging other senses as you're trying to do this work that can become, I think, so heady. And when we're in our heads, how much harder it is to create full experiences.
Yes, I agree. I think you need your whole self with creating anything, right? You need your whole entire self. And that's why those creative pauses sometimes are not sometimes. That's why those creative pauses are a blessing, because those creative pauses tell you, hey, it's not your gift that's blocked up. It's these other body parts like that need to be engaged as you create this thing. And right now you're only in here, you're only in your head. How can we engage everything else? So that's when these, like you said, Hannah, that's when these exercises come into play. And it's like, oh shoot, I feel I can breathe easier now. Okay, let me try it again. Or oh shoot, I'm looser. I'm more in my body, and I'm more present, because when we're up here, we are no longer present for whatever we are creating. And these exercises get us out of here and in our bodies.
I love your creative pause name.
Yeah,
I think that's perfect.
I'm here for it.
Well, we have come to that time, Nubia.
That time.
We're going to ask the lovely question, where does theater begin for you today?
I feel like we have so much incredible fodder from this conversation. Nubia, everything you said is like a soundbite we could pull out and put on social media, and it would inspire change in artists all over the globe. Like, I just feel like the power of this conversation was really, really meaningful and beautiful. So thank you. I'll just go back to something really simple that you said, Nubia. I think theater today begins for me when there's time to take a breath, or when I've given myself space to take that breath.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at Post-its and trying to figure out.
Alayna does this really beautiful thing. I think it's beautiful, where she takes all these little nuggets from the conversation and then she pieces them together in this sort of holistic statement that always sort of inspires and blows my mind.
I know. When you did it for Tylee, I said, oh, this is such a great idea. Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, well, now it's your turn. Theater begins when, instead of enduring, you choose to create, being okay not having all of the answers.
When instead of enduring. I love that.
I mean, you said it. Literally, these are just words that came out of your mouth, and that resonated with me so much. Is instead of enduring, like, you can create through anything.
Wow, y'all, these are hard acts to follow. I should have went first. Okay. Theater begins. Okay, for me, where that seed that you plant into somebody else is watered and you watch it blossom in the most beautiful way because of one seed, because of one thing you said, because of one thing you did, because of one performance, because of one word on a page, because of one act in a play. That was the seed that was enough to, like, oh, I want to get emotional, but to save a life. That's where theater begins for me.
Yeah, and how extraordinary. You had two people in your life, one when you were in second grade and then in high school, who really, many of us don't even remember what our teachers looked like, or maybe we remember their names or not, but you described your second grade teacher, completely. She had such an impact on you, and what a profound thing that is.
My goodness. We are heroes as artists. We are heroes. Every time we get on stage, the stakes are high. Every time we write a play, the stakes have to be high, because there's just too many people who need the gift, not so that they can look good on stage or make money, but for some of us, it's our lifeline. For some of us, it's why we're still breathing today. It's what saves lives. And so I can't take it lightly. I have to remember Miss Stewart. I have to honor Brandon Rainey, and all the people who came into my life and planted seeds that changed my life and saved my life. And as theater makers, we get to save lives.
Well, and they changed my life too, because here you are, right? Like their gifts keep going. We can't even see beyond that. Maybe they've seen you, maybe you've been in touch, but they don't know me. And yet they have changed my life too through you. So it's a powerful legacy that they created in you.
Thank you.
It's been so great talking to you, Nubia. Thanks so much for joining us. This won't be the last appearance, I'm sure, because we will have future seasons.
Join us for our next episode on October 25th. Let us know on Spotify where theater begins for you. And feel free to send your questions for future episodes to the link in the bio.
Thanks for listening to Playwright Center's Theater Begins Here.